podcast!
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a
Podcast?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and
Podcast.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Get to the Podcast. That's Get to the Podcast with the number 2. I'm Tiago D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
And Nick, we got a special guest today.
We do. I am stupid psyched. I'm really excited about our guest today. Let's go over a little bit about his career. He's had an acting career that spans over 30 years, working with the likes of George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Robert Altman, Oliver Stone, and on and on. We grew up watching this actor in Spielberg's Amazing Stories, Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July, and of course the 80s classic Rad, which is easily the raddest name for a movie ever.
It's really rad.
It is. It's short for radical for the layman.
For the layman.
And welcome to the show, Bill Allen.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Wherever here is, yeah.
It's the cloud. It's everywhere.
So Bill played the iconic character Crew Jones in Rad, which I've watched. I was telling Bill about this. I've watched that movie easily 1,000 times. That's a bit of an exaggeration because I don't know if anybody's watched any movie 1,000 times, but I've watched it into the hundreds. Like that is actually... This is probably the only movie, that and maybe Monster Squad. We've talked about both of those on the podcast a bunch, but Rad is easily the movie I've seen the most in my entire life. So I'm really psyched to have you, Bill.
I'm excited.
The local boy, Crew Jones.
Yeah, right. Local boy left town. I actually grew up in Dallas, a suburb of Dallas, actually. And so I'm in Los Angeles now and have been since the mid-'80s, I guess. And so, yeah, I don't feel so local anymore. But, you know, with everything that's going on in Texas right now, it sure makes me think about my roots and my people back there and where my wife recently made a mention of several people she knows, myself, my brother, his ex-girlfriend, who's not a nice person. She's like, you're all Texans. You've all got this thing. Good, bad, or indifferent, Texans have this, I don't know if it's a chip on your shoulder or it's just an attitude.
Right.
And so I gotta pay homage to that part of me that got me out of Texas, that gave me the grit to say I can do this beyond all good advice or you know, against the longest odds. I decided, okay, California is the place for me to be, and I'm going to go be a movie star. What a ridiculous premise.
Right.
And yet, you know, it was that Texan, Oklahoma kind of red dirt in my veins that kind of gave me the attitude, and you can't separate the two. So, again, to my Texas friends out there, you know, we love you, and we'll get through this.
Absolutely.
So real quick, because Texans are like, you guys are like one of the hardest working states in America. You guys like work really hard. How much rumble did you get when people heard that you wanted to move to LA and become an actor?
Well, luckily, at the time, I was a high school dropout. You know, there was a lot of low expectations for me, and I was lucky enough to get a real acting job out of Dallas in 1982. My cousin, who I'd never met before, actually started a movie production company and decided to direct a movie about a jockey. And I happen to have that look. You know, much of movies and TV is just the way you look.
Right.
So I was a skinny little teenager and looked the part on a horse. And so eventually my cousin got, you know, like $10 million to produce and direct this movie out of Lexington, Kentucky, which is horse country, obviously. And so when I was a teenager, I got the lead role in what I considered to be a major motion picture, and it was starring myself and Jose Ferrer, who was an Oscar winner at the time, Tab Hunter, who was an old movie star, and Miguel Ferrer, who just passed away
rest in peace,
a month or two. We became very good friends, and Miguel called his cousin George up in Cincinnati. George had just gotten out of business school. He came down and became part of the movie. He was cast in the movie, and we kind of formed a clique. And George happened to be George Clooney.
Jeez.
Nobody knew he was George Clooney at the time. He was just Miguel's cousin.
This is like
And
10
so
years
that-
before ER even. This is 10 to 15 years
Oh
before
yeah,
even-
dude. This
yeah.
is way before. This is when the Earth was cooling. This
Yeah.
is 1982.
This is before
And
bat
so-
nipples, right?
Yeah, I mean, so before anything was going on in Hollywood, as far as our careers was concerned, it was us in Lexington, Kentucky. So, strangely enough, if that had not happened, you know, Miguel is the one who encouraged both George and myself to come out to Los Angeles because of that movie. And so
Wow.
my cousin, in a very strange kind of weird way, gave George his break in show business, and myself included, and that's what got the both of us out here.
Wow.
You know, it's strange but true. That's what actually happened. So again, you know, I was talking to Nick earlier. You know, I was friends with George and Brandon Lee and a young Lou Diamond Phillips, and these things look inevitable in retrospect, but at the time, we were just knuckleheads knocking around going, well, I hope this works. I hope we don't have to go back to a real job. And you look back years later and go, wow, look what we did.
Right.
It's pretty
Iconic characters, each one of you.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have thought that Rad, probably even at the time it came out, that Rad would be such a phenomenon, which I think it really kind of hit on the VHS market.
Well, listen, I was a young kid who had never seen that sport like a lot of people, walking around that set with Hal Needham, the greatest stunt director in the world, looking at Hell Track, looking at Jose Inez busting backflips.
First time.
The qualifying races, I mean, I got to say, I was walking around after we finished filming going, things are about to change.
Right.
I knew it.
Right.
Now, it took a while for it to really find its audience on VHS, but when it did, Nick, you tell me, things were different after Rad.
Oh, absolutely.
It became legend.
I hear that from people around the world. Pedro Melo, who's a good friend of mine, he's a world-class BMXer. He's from a small fishing village in Portugal, and he talks about life before Rad and life after Rad, and they were two completely different things. And I just hear that again and again. Guys like yourself who just had groups of friends who clung on to that movie. A lot of us were latchkey kids or from broken homes, and they saw that movie, saw themselves in Crew Jones. Most of them had a bike out back, rusting, if anything.
Right.
And it was able to get them through a lot of difficult times, which, you know, is our youth.
Absolutely.
And so it's just been a great thing for me to watch.
I actually got to when I was going to ECU in college. I actually lived right by where David Mirra had his skate park in Greenville, North Carolina, and I used to go there. And one of the movies that he played in the background was Rad.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are you serious?
And I
And
got
this is
to
Dave Mirra, one of the most legendary BMX bikers.
Exactly.
Rest in peace as well. Last
yeah,
year.
so sad. Yeah, and so it was
Well,
just
there you have it. You know, I met Ryan Nyquist a few years ago, and he's like, "Thanks for the inspiration." And it takes you aback.
Yeah.
Because now you start to realize what these guys grew up watching, and that it did have an effect. And these guys went out and bettered Crew Jones and changed the world. You know, so. Wow, that kind of influence is, you can't expect that, you can't plan for that, but now we're seeing the fruits of it.
Right,
so
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I was telling you earlier, Bill, you know, I was about 5 years old when my parents bought me a VHS copy of Rad. They bought it for me and my brother. We were poor, so we had to share our VHSs, but they got it for both of us, and we proceeded to kill that tape. Like, we played it over and over. I went out and got a bike, and I tried every trick in that film and busted my ass more times than I could say. And I never got any of those tricks down because I never,
Nick basically said, I'm just going to watch the movie.
I was doing it off the opening credits, the closing credits, and the bike dance off. That was my training. That was my course. And I just would try to copy
before
it.
that, people only had magazines, so they were trying to learn the tricks from still photos.
Jeez.
Try that.
Right.
So
that's crazy.
at least Rad not only just showed you the tricks, but it also showed the lifestyle, how they behaved off the track, and with the clubhouse and the friends and the broken home. It's just kind of like here's a blueprint.
Right.
Here's how you can do it. And man, people all over the world started getting like paper routes. Paper routes because of Crew Jones.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to be kidding
What do you
me.
want to be when you grow up?
That's what they did.
Right.
See, that's the crazy
And
thing. That's the crazy thing about this film is the fact that there's no other movie like it.
Right. There really isn't.
There's
no other.
really isn't.
Like there's BMX Bandits, I think, which had like
Yeah.
a 14-year-old Nicole Kidman, but I can't think of any other
Nobody has hit
BMX
this subject.
film that's actually had any sort of weight to it, has held up at all.
It's very singular in that fashion, and for me, it's just great because it does stand apart, and even in the pantheon of Hal Needham films, he was able to live long enough to see that Rad really had a continuing impact. I was with Hal at the 25th anniversary celebration 7 years ago, wherever in Canada, and people drove in from as far as South America, drove to Canada, and flew in from all over the world. And then he was able to physically see what was going on. It had like a Rocky Horror Picture Show atmosphere. Guys like yourself, I've seen it hundreds of times, just screaming all the lines at the screen.
Yep.
And it's just like he didn't have movies that had that lasting impact.
Right, because he did Smokey and the Bandit.
I saw him. I think the last time I saw him was at a screening of Smokey and the Bandit, which was, at the box office, a huge hit.
Right.
But the audience was like half of what it was at these Rad screenings, wasn't nearly as enthusiastic, and it was kind of a bunch of oldsters reliving the past, whereas the Rad crowd, they're still showing it to their kids, and so they're youngsters coming up watching it now. And so I was happy that Hal was really able to appreciate the impact that it had.
Right.
Because no Hal Needham, no Rad. That's a fact.
Absolutely, and I think him being a stunt director, you watch that qualifying races, the Hell Track definitely, but the qualifying races scenes where you have to place in the top three times in a row, basically. That is rough. Like you watch that, and there's energy. It's explosive every time you're coming towards the end, and you're in second or third place. I'm like, hop the thing, crew, hop the thing. Like you got it.
Right.
I'm like, oh, yesterday I was rewatching it with my sister, and actually my 2-year-old daughter was watching the qualifying races and the Hell Track scene with. She's only 2, like she's still learning to speak, and she's watching this thing, and she's like getting my energy. She starts clapping, and it was like explosive.
That's so great.
I love it, and might I say, Crew Jones. Easily the best name in movie history. I want to name my son Crew Jones. His last name would be Gambino. I don't know how it's going to flow, Crew Jones Gambino, but
my good friend named his kid Crew Jones Fruman. So I've met many crews through the years, and even there's a young crew female out in Texas.
Oh wow.
John Shaw's kid. So. Yeah, it's a great name. It's easily recognizable, and it's become kind of like an alter ego for me.
Right. Okay, so I wanted to get into a little bit about how you got Rad, the audition process, how you even heard about it. Were you just going on auditions for anything and everything, and you just ended up like I know there was something about Hal seeing you on Hill Street Blues. I just kind of wanted to get the story there.
Yeah, I lived in Los Angeles at the time and was auditioning for anything and everything, and I had done an episode of Hill Street Blues, which is a popular NBC cop drama at the time. Actually, a very good show.
Yeah, definitely.
And I had a nice role on that, and Hal saw me on that. I guess he saw me twice, and the second time it was just before he was starting to cast that role, so I think he just had it in his mind, that's the kid I want, because my audition was just a few minutes long. They had me sit on a mongoose bike, maybe read a scene, probably, and I met with Hal and the writer and producer Robert Levy. And that was it.
Wow.
Normally, audition processes are a lot longer, and you can go on for months and still not know. But Hal just kind of saw me and knew what he liked. And 6 weeks later, probably, I was up in Canada shooting, so I kind of blame that on my not so hot writing skills that I'm working on now at 54 years old. But it was a real quick process, and I guess I thought that they've got this covered. If they needed me to learn how to do stunts on a bike, I'd be doing them. But frankly, we had the best stunt riders in the world, and the hockey helmet helped a lot. Right?
To protect your head. To cover you. Yeah.
Sorry?
To cover your face so that people couldn't see it wasn't
well,
you.
To cover Jose's face, because not only was he doesn't really look like me, but he refused to shave. He had a big mustache, handlebar mustache, and they're like, Jose, would you mind shaving? He's like, yeah, actually, I would. So I know, it's crazy to think about. Yeah. So yeah, they got him that big stupid hockey helmet, and it actually became great because it almost became iconic, and he was too broke to buy a real helmet, so they got that big stupid hockey helmet that covered everything. So yeah, when I put that hockey helmet on, all of a sudden I can ride a bike. It's great.
Right. Now, did you tell me you did like you popped a wheelie once in that film? Tell me you hopped the curb, something like.
I nearly cracked my skull wide open when I hit the wrong brake. So in that way, I kind of joined the ranks of the injured.
Okay.
They said you're in.
They did. I know you did go through the fence, the hell track fence, or like with the
there you go.
Yeah,
that was me.
Yes,
that was me.
You.
And if you look at me, as soon as I go through the fence, I nearly eat it. So,
okay.
And
you stop short.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing to me now because I'm actually like getting skills and studying with Martin. He's teaching me flatland. So those scenes I kind of got to cringe, but. Yeah. Man, the illusion worked. At the end of the day, I still get really good bike riders coming up to me going, was that you doing the backflip? I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Right, yeah. Now, you did ride up on the garbage truck, though. That was you. They didn't it was a close-up, though. It was a medium shot.
On the garbage truck. If you look at that shot, it's Ed jumping up onto the can, and then they come around to the front, and that's me riding it. And it wasn't that hazardous. I figured the dump truck guy knew what he's doing. What was I thinking?
Right.
And I survived that. I think what was the worst? The worst part was the ass sliding, I guess, because the water was so frigid.
Yeah.
And Martin was talking about this yesterday. They had him going down the flue first. Hal came up to him and said, "Listen, I want you to go down the ass sliding flue first, but when you hit the water, come up happy because the water's just melted snow. It was so cold." He's like, "I don't want to freak these actors out, So when you hit the water, come up really happy." And he did, and then they, he turned blue, and they toweled him off in the trailer.
Right.
So when we got to do the ass sliding, they shot it from two different angles.
Okay.
So we didn't have to do it more than once. And oh my God, that.
Oh, your face when you come out of the water, you can see.
Oh, it was
because it goes in slow motion.
I mean, They got us in wetsuits, which do zero good if you're only in there for a few seconds.
Right.
It's kind of got to warm up. There was no warming up in that water.
Right.
So yeah, there are parts of me I still haven't seen since we shot that.
Right. But
it was cold.
That's a good line. But you at least, was it worth it because you got to go ass sliding with Lori Loughlin? Who else can say that?
It was all worth it. Yeah. She was awesome, right?
Yeah.
And so that didn't suck.
Little number one, little special number one. Yes.
Yeah, dude.
She's fantastic.
She's classic beauty.
Did everybody stutter when they said her name?
Yeah.
Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, she's awesome."
Yeah, Lori Loughlin. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about this because I was watching this yesterday with my sister, who grew up watching it too, but she hasn't seen it in several years. And she stopped and she was like, "There's like solid acting in this movie," which is not something you always get when you're rewatching, a movie from the 80s where it doesn't necessarily hold up. But there's like solid acting chops in this film. From everybody, even the supporting characters. I mean, obviously you have like, you know, your Jack Weston and Talia Shires, but like beyond that, even like first time, like people are solid in this film.
Well, it turns out that acting's a thing. In other words, you might have a concept and you might go, well, let's just put this person in there because they're a reality TV star or they were in a popular YouTube thing.
Right.
Well, you could do that, or you could hire actors who have really made it their job to be great at what they do and have done hundreds of movies and have been nominated for Oscars. And this is what they do. You know, there's no, in my mind, substitute for really good actors as opposed to people who are charismatic
Right.
and can get through it. But at the end of the day, man, to have a Jack Weston in that role that could have been played by a bunch of different people, but he was just great.
He's fantastic.
You know?
Yeah.
One of the best character actors in the
Ever.
business at the time.
Absolutely.
So, you know, him and Alfie Wise, they were able to take these goofy lines and really make something out of it. So that's why you hire good actors. And that's why you go, well, why is he making $250,000? He's nobody. Well, turns out, like I said, acting's a thing.
Right, and he is somebody.
You generally get what you pay for.
Yeah, and I mean, Jack West, I mean, he was in Dirty Dancing, Short Circuit, too. But
I grew up on Twilight Zone. He was in a million of those.
That's right.
And he's just a special character actor, and I knew that at the time, and so did Hal. He got that.
Right.
He's so Hal, in his limited ability, only had a ninth grade education.
Wow.
Came from a stuntman background. He wasn't a UCLA film grad.
Right.
He understood the concept of hiring the best at what they do.
Right.
And then he can do what he does.
Exactly. Because sometimes you see that.
Which on this film was unique because he was a car guy. He was, an ex-paratrooper guy. He was not a bicycle guy. So he actually had to place a lot of the responsibility on the bicyclists on how to do the stunts, how to make them look good, how to film them. You know, so it was a real learning experience for him too. He was out of his comfort zone.
Right. Right. And Talia Shire, how was it working with her? I mean, that's Adrian from Rocky. That's Godfather.
Well, it just goes back to what I'm saying. You hire people who are great at what they do, and it makes everything
come out with something incredible.
You know, I was a young actor at the time, so to get to work with all these professionals, Talia especially, it raises the level of what's going on the set, and I'm a musician also.
Right.
And if you have really solid musicians behind you, good drummer can keep the beat, you know, you don't have to worry. You just play.
Right.
You know, so it's really, it's very musician like that in that you're expecting these people to give and take in a rhythm that's easy, and then you don't have to work, and it just flows.
Right. Now, her production company was actually behind this movie, right? It was like Talia Films.
Her husband actually, was the brains behind Talia Film. Jack Schwartzman, he had also produced a couple of my favorite movies, one being There in the 70s, and Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery back in the James Bond role.
The non-canon James Bond film.
Yeah. So he had a heavy resume as a producer also. Again, you know, Hal picked the best of the best to get his vision across.
Right. Now, this is a little bit before, but do you, in terms of you weren't around for the writing process and, you know, the script being put together, but I don't hear a lot about that with this film, you know, just kind of like the behind the scenes of that, but I don't know. You kind of came on afterwards.
Well, I can tell you the genesis of it, and I think I got it wrong in my book. But Hal Needham was at, I think, the Equestrian Center here in Burbank in about 1980. And according to Martin Aparijo, who's one of my stunt guys on the film, he and Woody Itzen were doing a demo in the parking lot, and Hal Needham comes up. And he's like, I can make a movie out of this. So that was it. I mean, the rest is history. You go out and find a writer, put it all together, and that's the genesis. And if that hadn't happened, had not happened, had Hal not seen that go on,
It may never have been.
yeah, it would have never happened. So again, he's kind of the unsung hero of this whole thing.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so during the stunt scenes, I mean, Jose Yanez nailing the backflip at the end during Hell Track. Where were you during the filming of this? Were you actually watching the stunts? Were you watching Hell Track?
Yeah,
filmed?
I was around for the whole thing. And you go to a skate park nowadays, and you'll see kids 12, 13 years old busting a backflip, or even 2 or 360s or whatever. It was not so back in the day. He was the only person on the planet who could do a backflip.
Yeah.
So it was like the moon launch or Evel Knievel going Snake River. When he did the backflip, we would have to like quiet the set. He'd get down on one knee and I guess talk to Mother Mary. And yeah, it was like, this man is about to go to the moon and he might die. Watch this.
Wow.
Swear, this was the feeling on the set.
Yeah.
And he got paid for every time he did it, and it was monumental. You know, now it's not such a big deal, but at the time, nobody ever seen
at the
that.
time it was eat your heart out, Hulk Hogan. Like that was
Right?
just, it was incredible.
And it was incredible, and the way that it was woven into the Hell Track climax was just great. People
Right.
loved it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember actually, I didn't even realize he was the one when I was a kid. I didn't realize he was the one doing the backflip, but I ended up with this other VHS in the early 90s, Curb Dogs 2. And I don't know if you ever heard of Curb Dogs. I'm sure you've heard of them. But anyways, I ended up with this VHS of it. And in the beginning, it's this whole kind of promo thing of Jose Yanez doing this backflip into like a lake or something like that. And
That's how he developed the trick.
Landing in the lake?
I think after Rad, he went on the road with the circus.
Wow.
Doing that trick.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. You know, it's like Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile. It's like, oh, we can actually do this.
Right.
And now, you know, email friend of mine, Jed Milton, holds the record for 4 backflips.
Wow. Jesus. It's come a long way.
Yeah, go to iTunes and check out Revolution Day, and you'll see him and James Foster go head to head to see who's going to be the first one to bust a 4 backflips at once.
Wow.
So yeah, we're really just at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So here we are 30 years later after Rad, 32 years later, and now we got guys out there doing 4 backflips. What's next? What's going to happen in 10 years? You guys watch the same YouTube and Facebook videos I do with these mountain bikers and these guys just doing superhuman things.
Yeah, it's crazy out there.
Yeah, it's
So
gotten nuts.
We're at the dawn of a new era. These are athletes that are a lot of times lone wolves out there doing it by themselves and learning these tricks on their own. And so I'm fascinated by these guys.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the story that I think, you know, Rad highlighted and the one that we're doing next is a similar take on these extreme athletes.
Okay, nice. I'm sorry if my questions are all over the place, but I have so many geeked out little questions and little trivia things.
Right on.
He has not closed his mouth
No,
yet.
I'm telling you, if we can make this a 7-hour interview, I would be psyched. So, do you know whatever happened to, I guess her name was Laura Jacoby, who played Wesley, your little sister? I just haven't seen her in anything else.
Yeah, you know, I don't. I think she got a life after that and actually went to school.
Yeah.
Brother Billy is an actor, and I used to see him on auditions quite a bit.
Okay.
But Lori, I think, is one of the few cast members that didn't actually go on and
do much else. Yeah, I was just wondering if she ended up coming to any of the events or get-togethers or anything.
Boy, you know, she hasn't. I haven't heard high nor hair from her. That's a good question.
Yeah, because she's great in the film. Like, she really is. She has this
great.
awesome attitude.
Yep.
Crew. Yep. He's already barfed twice. Yeah, I know.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Let me ask you this: when you got into Heroes of Dirt, yeah. How did it feel to be back on that scene, on that BMX scene, and did you have any flashbacks while you were filming certain things?
Well, it was really cool because it was produced and directed by hardcore Rad fans. And there was an actual real-life contest that was part of the production. And so I got to see that go down. And, of course, a lot of those guys, we shot it in Pennsylvania, were hardcore Rad fans. And, for Crew Jones, this is a good time to come into like hundreds of Rad fans who grew up watching you, and now they're making another movie that's kind of inspired by that whole thing. So yeah, that was really special, and it was part of the process of opening my eyes to, wow, look what we did, look what's on the table, let's keep this conversation going. And so that's where I'm at today.
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Did you get to do anything else outside of playing Tim Cooper? Like, did they're like, hey, Mr. Allen?
No, I just played the fat father in that.
they
but
weren't.
That was fun for me. But after that, it's like, you know what? I need to get back on a bike. So this is what I'm concerned with now.
You're actually learning to really.
Yeah, I'm riding every day and studying flatland with Martin, and we're getting ready to do another BMX movie. So
that's awesome.
It's
tell me it's. I know.
Hold on. Did he just do a reveal?
No, he didn't. But
Did he just do?
Tell me it's Rad 2. Please tell me there's a sequel.
I'm not going to tell you that. I'll just let you be the judge when you see it.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh. No.
How's that?
Tickling me. Okay. Is this okay, let me just ask the question. I'm trying to skirt around, not make anything too uncomfortable here, but like, okay, if you can't say that that's what it is, when should we expect it?
I expect to be in production by the spring.
Okay.
So
cool.
I would expect by the end of next year.
Great.
You know how these things
if
go.
you
It just
need
takes time.
Okay, and if you need anybody to stand around and watch you guys be awesome, I'm totally available.
I've
got my Rad racing shirt. Is
that true?
And yeah,
That is
absolutely.
true.
I'm wearing it
It
right
is
now.
really
I'm wearing
does.
it right now. My Rad racing
He has
shirt.
Rad Racing on.
We're gonna beat them at their own game. Yeah, I got all the
That's
lines.
awesome.
Give him the ripped one. I got all the lines down.
All right. Oh my gosh.
48. We're rich. I could literally quote this whole movie. It's not even funny.
I don't want him
Okay.
to.
You know what?
Yeah.
Nick, I'm gonna lay a challenge down to you because I saw a kid do this with Mean Girls, I think.
Okay.
Ooh.
And he recited the whole movie in like 2 minutes
Oh shit.
and posted it online. So
Wow.
that's my challenge to you: is see how quickly you can recite the whole movie,
All the lines, not just one character. Is that what he?
everything, every bit
In
of dialogue.
2 minutes.
I want to hear it all
Wow.
in one 3-minute.
Wow.
Wow.
Nick, you can't get out of this. You're gonna have to try this.
I'm never one to back down from a challenge, and okay, all right, let me see what I
Oh,
can
you
do.
have to. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got to now. I'm a man. I got to be a man.
Crew Jones demands it.
Crew Jones, the man. That's amazing. I didn't think Crew Jones would ever say that to me.
Neil and I will walk away after the 7th or 8th minute when you're still in the first scene.
Exactly.
Hey, you know what? This is actually a great idea.
It actually
We'll,
is.
we'll have several fans do it because
I
you're
love
not
it.
alone, dude.
We'll
Yeah.
post
There's
it.
some
We'll
twisted
post it.
people out there. It's just like Rad is like wallpaper at their house. It's just on
Oh yeah.
all the time.
We're actually gonna we're gonna post this challenge.
Yes, that sounds good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm down.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm totally. I
love
actually
it.
love that idea.
Do you mind if we say that Bill Allen challenged Rad fans to see if they can quote the film in 2 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
The winner will get a free copy of My Rad Career available
Boom.
on Amazon.
Boom.
There we
you go.
go.
Which is, by the way, great book. I read it.
Thanks.
It's fantastic. It more than just going into the Rad movie. It goes over your whole career. From before that, after that, great stories about George Clooney and Miguel Ferrer and even your good friend Brandon Lee, who we're going to talk about in a minute. It's fantastic. It really is a good book. It's funny too. Like you just got a
Thank
great
you.
sense of humor.
Thank you.
So just a couple other really quick questions about Rad. Like I said, I could spend hours on this movie. But I wanted to ask you, when did you find out? So the original title of this movie, from what I hear, was Balls Out, which is actually said at one point by the cop where he goes, "Crew, you can do it. Just pretend you're in the lumberyard. Go balls out." And that was the name of it, right? Balls Out? Did you?
got me.
Oh yeah, that was apparently the title of the movie was Balls Out, and wasn't Rad in the beginning.
That would be the porn version.
The porn.
Right?
Right.
I can't see that ever actually happening, but
Yeah.
I think that's a
Crew
great
Jones
idea.
rides more than
In
a
fact,
bike. Yeah.
Nick is
I think
confused with
that's my second
XXX.
challenge to you, Nick, is make the porn version and call it Balls Out.
Oh man.
He's confused with
Well,
the movie XXX.
Yeah, Balls Out. No, it's the porn parody. Yeah, Do Jones, not Crew Jones. So, well, this is what I hear, that it was originally called Balls Out. So, but when you got involved in it, was it called Rad by then, or?
It's called Rad.
Okay, because I was hoping you were going to say no. I was making a movie the whole time, and I thought it was called Balls Out until after.
Well, in my mind, I had a whole different movie going on starring Lori Loughlin, and that was called Balls Out.
Oh man.
Oh heck.
Okay, well,
That's great.
Neil wanted to actually ask you a
Yeah.
question because he fell in love with this particular scene in the movie.
Yeah, so I had never seen the movie before, and Nick showed it to me. Like
I got
6
a whole
months
bunch
ago.
of friends together, and we did a
Wow.
Rad
Okay.
screening.
Well, what was your impression?
No, I was like, it's great. I mean, I'm like an 80s child, so I love all the 80s films, and we started watching it, and I'm like, okay, and Nick's like hyping it and like quoting lines, and I'm like, all right, this guy needs to calm down.
Calm down. Yeah.
And we're just watching it, and then we got to the high school dance scene, and I was like,
Oh my God.
Oh my God, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. I'm like,
bike dance off.
How did that come about? Like, what was that like to shoot that scene?
Well, for me, it was horrific because I was coming off of a case of food poisoning from bad KFC.
Oh, wow.
So if you see the distress on my face, it's real because there's something about to come up. But I think the inspiration was all the 80s dance movies at the time, Flashdance,
Yeah.
the break-in movies,
Mm-hmm.
and Footloose. There seemed to be just like these obligatory dance scenes in that. So that's the inspiration from it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you break it down shot by shot, there's just so many things that just could not actually be happening,
Right.
like me balancing on a bike, for one. So there was a lot of dolly work, a lot of bikes were fixed to dollies, what have you. And
Yeah, which you could see.
but then,
you could see that. Yeah.
Then again, there was some great athletics, like when Martin jumps up on the balance beam and does the squeaker, on
Yeah.
his
That
front
was
wheel
crazy.
going backwards. That's actually a practical gag that they made up on the spot.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
But that scene has been recreated in movies and TV and people's weddings.
Right.
And
Send me an angel.
Send me exactly.
Yeah,
I used to
yeah,
imitate
I mean,
that
there's-
without a bike.
There's nothing like that in movie history. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a video that a band called Harmar Superstar did with Juliette Lewis, and they spoofed that whole dance sequence.
What?
Wow.
The whole "Send Me an Angel." That's great.
Uh-huh.
It's a fun scene. Yes, it's kind of a little bit. You watch it now, it's definitely 80s, but it's fun. It's fun to watch. I guess the only
Okay,
thing.
well, here's some trivia you'll be excited about.
Yeah.
They didn't use "Send Me an Angel" when we were originally
What?
filming that sequence. They had to use a different song. We didn't know what song we were going to actually use, and that song was, I remember to this day, "White Wedding."
Oh, wow.
That's
Billy
what
Idol.
everybody's actually,
Billy Idol.
yeah, that's what everybody's actually dancing to.
No
when
way.
watching the film, and then they laid in "Send Me an Angel" later.
Oh,
That's
a piece
crazy.
of trivia I never heard.
I don't think they could afford the licensing for "White Wedding."
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
Billy Idol.
John
Yeah.
Farnham stuff and
Yeah.
dude.
Which by the way, blows away
Right?
Billy Idol. In my opinion, that John Farnham's Thunder
Well,
in Your Heart, Break the Ice.
It kind of made that movie. The soundtrack was so much a part of it.
Yeah, it really is incredible. Like my wife, who's not like a diehard Rad fan like me, but she likes the movie, loves the soundtrack. Like she
that
she
right?
kids me whenever I put it on. She's like, "Are you kidding, Rad again?" But she just starts belting it out with me. Thunder in Your Heart. Like we just get into it, and I dance with my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, with it. I love that soundtrack. It's on iTunes now. They actually put it on iTunes.
It is.
Yeah, Rad doesn't have an official DVD release, but fucking the soundtrack.
Do you
is
know
on
why?
iTunes.
Do you know why it does not have an official DVD release? That's horrible.
Yeah, because it's TriStar. It wasn't like just some, I don't know. I have no idea. I
No,
have no
I was
idea
asking.
Oh, you're asking Bill.
I wasn't. I was asking Bill.
Are you asking me?
Oh, I guess I'm asking you.
Nick
He's asking
decided
me,
to
and I'm like,
answer.
I don't know, dude. I'm not the official Rad representative.
No, do you? I was asking you, Bill. Do you actually know why there's not an official DVD release? Why there's only a VHS release for it?
I actually do.
Oh, you do? Oh.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. I need to know this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It got really solemn all of a sudden. Go ahead. I'm listening.
It's depressing, and yet it's been part of the whole Rad mystique. It's like, how do I find this movie? You know, it's kind of like the Holy Grail.
It almost helps. It almost helps.
I wish it weren't so, because it's kind of opened the door for lots of piracy. But that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is, guys. I wish it were not so.
Right.
But if you want the movie, you can find the movie, obviously, through bootleg means.
That's unfortunately how I have it on DVD, but like, there was no other way.
That's how everybody
I had the
has it.
VHS,
Like,
but
you
I was
got a
like, how do you
VHS
watch
player,
it? Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. It's unfortunate.
Or a Laserdisc player. It was out on.
Was it on Laserdisc? Oh wow.
It was, yeah. And there's an actual vinyl soundtrack.
What?
You know, LP. You know, so there's a couple of cool merchandising things that Rad fans can have, but they come up very rarely. And if you can find a mint, still in the cellophane VHS copy, I've seen them go for north of $1,000.
Wow.
Wow.
So the people who love this movie really love
this movie. Yeah, they're diehard fans or Rad fans. Yeah. But do you know why? Like, what's the politics behind why it hasn't gotten released on DVD?
You know, the people in Texas really need our help, guys. So if you could contact Red Cross and donate, that would be a better subject.
Oh, okay. All right. So we won't get into that. We'll keep this light and fun then in terms of.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem whatsoever. But it is. I mean, I love the movie, so you know, hopefully at some point that will, you know, drop on a better means.
Well, the
beyond
important
VHS.
thing now is that you can show it to your kids.
Yes.
You know, and the people that want to see it can see it. And so my focus, since I can't do anything about that, is what are we going to do now?
Right.
Well, how do we keep the Rad fans
Exactly.
fed? And so
It
Todd
doesn't seem to
Seligman-
stop it, and that's a testament to the movie. It busts through no matter what.
Correct.
Exactly.
The Grinch did not steal Christmas.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah, I've teamed up with Todd Seligman, who used to ride Vert for GT back in the day.
Right.
Now a very prominent film producer out here. So we're working on the next BMX epic with yours truly.
Nice, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks.
Okay, so moving past Rad now, I just want to get in a little bit. You had the Born on the 4th of July afterwards, right? With Oliver Stone, which you cover in the book in terms of like what have you were training. There was supposed to, I guess, be a bigger role at some point, and it cut a little bit. But you're in the movie. You're definitely in Born on the 4th of July.
Somewhere in there.
I recognized you when I saw the movie originally because I'm a huge Rad fan. So I was like, Crew Jones.
My main takeaway from that was getting to work with Dale Dye, who trained all the troops for all of Oliver's Vietnam films, Platoon, and trained all the guys for Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
So his methodology would be take a few Marine reservists and a group of actors and go out into the jungle or the woods and teach them jungle warfare for a few weeks.
Right.
Which is what we did in Houston, strangely enough, and the Philippines. And so it very quickly became about the camaraderie between us and these actual Vietnam vets, and the movie kind of took a back seat, strangely enough.
Right.
So I was not happy with the conditions on that film. I had a chance to leave with pay, and I'm like, and not get a chance to hang with Dale Dye. A hero of mine? No, that won't be happening.
Right.
So that was, and you talk to the actors who went through that, and that includes people like Tom Hanks or Johnny Depp or Forrest Whitaker. All these people have gone through Dale Dye's camp,
right.
basically, Marine training camp. And it's the thing you take away from those films is the contact with that guy. He turned into a legitimate actor. You tend to not really be concerned with how the film did. As actors, you're concerned with what happens during the production. And I got to spend weeks in Marine training with actual Marines.
Wow.
So I got a taste of the military that you can only do
when you
when
join.
you sign up.
Right.
Yeah. So as close as I needed to get, and I got that out of my system.
Wow.
Always kind of been fascinated with soldiers and war and what they do, and I got a little taste of it.
Wow. That's crazy.
Life changing. Yeah, it's life changing.
Yeah,
Absolutely
totally.
life changing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A little bit more about what you cover in the book. You cover your friendship with Brandon Lee in this book, son of Bruce Lee. I was just yesterday. They actually just announced that the Crow reboot has moved from Relativity over to Sony, which I have a little, love-hate relationship with the concept of a reboot because Crow 2, 3, and 4, City of Angels or whatever they just got worse and worse. And the first one, in my eyes, is a masterpiece, and that's a testament to Brandon Lee's acting ability. He's fantastic.
Well, there you go. People have the same attitude about a sequel to Rad or anything. It's like, oh, you're going to ruin it.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
How do you ruin a film retroactively?
Right.
How do you take somebody's youth and trash it? It's like, no.
Right.
These movies did what they did, and producers, are going to try to capitalize on what once worked, and it usually runs in like 30-year cycles.
Yeah.
Because people in their 40s and 50s look at their youth and go, "What was cool then?" And they start trying to relive that, which is why we're talking today.
Right.
Because Rad is in that cycle, and so is The Crow, frankly. And now people are wanting to talk about that film that changed their lives as youth, and they want to see it again and recreate that magic.
Right.
Are you going to recreate Brandon Lee? No. I don't think so.
Nope.
Don't think so.
And there's nobody going to fill those shoes, but that's just the way Hollywood runs. They made they remade The Honeymooners. It's just like
that's right. They
some
did.
things you
Cedric
can't
the Entertainer.
remake, but they're going to keep trying.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever capture. I mean, I'm always about try and do whatever you're going to do, and a remake, reboot could be good. I have no idea, but I just know
it
that
could also turn people to the original.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. So it can't be bad for
hey,
that.
screw this. Let's look at this, kids.
Right.
So again, it's going to get people talking about Brandon again, and Lou Diamond Phillips and I are trying to get this movie made about Brandon.
Wow.
So it could help get Brandon back in the conversation again, and getting people asking questions about him and what happened to him? Who was he?
Right.
Killed by a handgun? What?
Yeah.
So
a lot of people. That's still a lot of myth around that. I mean, you covered in your book kind of a good amount of details on it, but there's a lot of false stories going around about exactly how it went down. I remember when it happened, I was a big Brandon Lee fan. I loved Showdown in Little Tokyo, Rapid Fire. I thought he was really stepping out of the shadows of his father, who's this luminous character. And then The Crow was just incredible, but just the whole myth about what happened, which you
this is the most mythic thing about it, and we could talk about what actually happened. But Bruce's last movie, do you know the name of it?
Enter the Dragon was his last one.
Yep.
Game of Death.
Game of Death. No, you mean the one that was on release? Yeah, and they the trash version they put out
They eventually
later.
released it 6 years after he died by putting Bruce's head on another actor's body. Sounds familiar, right? Well,
good point.
The plot of that movie was about an actor who gets killed by a prop handgun on a movie set.
That's true. Oh shit, you're right. That's
shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Shit.
Yeah. That's
So
interesting.
so ruminate on that for a while.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Brandon 20 years later. And so there was, in a Barton Fink kind of synchronistic fashion, Brandon closed that loop in a mythological way, in a way that I went, oh, this is bigger than me.
Right.
There's a synchronistic thing going on here that I don't understand, that I'm just going to have to accept, and here's the proof.
Wow.
Maybe it's a random thing. I don't think so.
Right.
It's just too synchronistic.
Yeah.
Now, when Brandon's favorite poem, and he was a poetic soul, was The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. He knew it by heart, and I saw him recite it by heart. And when he got The Crow, there it is.
Right. Which is
The Raven.
The Raven, The Crow, yeah.
And he throws me the script and says, "Slim, this is great. They kill me in this one."
What?
That's what he said to me.
Wow.
And so he was talking about, oh, they kill the hero in this, and isn't that cool? But that's what he said to me. And so there were kind of signposts along the way that none of us could discern or pay attention to at the time. You look back in retrospect, like the Game of Death plot, and you go, well, I guess it was meant to be.
Right.
Because he was certainly one of those personalities where when you met him, you go, well, he's probably not going to be around for long.
Right.
He just burns too bright and does too much crazy shit. The irony was that he died on a movie set surrounded by people paid to protect him.
Right.
And yet he died anyway.
Right.
So
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there is this something, like the universe kicking, something beyond just the material that kicks past the physical.
And listen, people were at fault.
Right.
People were criminally negligent.
Right.
A arms expert was let go a week early to save a few $1,000s.
Wow.
So that's kind of the details. And is there blame to lay? Yeah. Yes,
Right.
there is.
Right.
But nonetheless, there's a whole bigger picture going on where you go, okay, I can sleep at night because there seems to be some sort of synchronicity in his life and the brief time he was here. And my gosh,
Right.
how lucky was I to be a part of that, or,
Absolutely.
to see that up close.
Absolutely. Yeah, you come to peace with it with that. I mean, that is. I mean, just the fact that you were able to spend so much time with him and have such an intimate relationship where we just know him from his movies, but you knew him as a guy you hung around with and you had deep conversations with. That's incredible.
Yeah, pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky.
And again, the book My Rad Career covers that in detail, including an encounter a few years later with the actor who unfortunately pulled the trigger on that scene.
Well, yeah, and he just passed maybe
a year ago, I think.
Or this year, something not that long ago, and another victim.
Yeah,
another victim. He obviously didn't mean to hurt or kill Brandon, and he obviously never lived that down or was able to get around that.
Right.
When I met him years later, he's a tortured soul. How do you
get
around it?
Yeah.
You don't.
Right.
It defines who you are. It defines your life. It's an image you will never get over.
Right.
So that's what I had to remind myself before I met him.
Right.
Is like, this guy's a victim too.
Right. Understood. Yeah, totally. And again, in the book, I love how you cover just like how you got through it. Some of the things you're sharing with us now, and just like the things you went through to kind of come to peace with it and lay that to rest in a sense. It really is a good book. I mean, you cover so many different emotions in it, from the tragic to the repairing tragedy, the funny, with the Danger Boys with George Clooney, and there's so much in this book that's really incredible. So I know that book came out a year or two ago, My Rad Career. What other projects do you have going now? Like, you've mentioned.
In the writing world, I'm planning another book. I don't know if I'll do it, but it's in the planning stages. And like I said earlier, Todd Seligman and myself are now committed to doing the next BMX epic.
I'm calling it Rad 2. I'm calling it Rad 2.
So this has been in development for a long time, and we've got the right producers on board. It's been a team-building exercise. But I can tell you, talking to guys like yourself, and I do on an almost daily basis, gives me the strength to do this.
Right.
And makes me go, people really care about this, and it really changed them, and it was really a part of the fabric of their lives. And if they can do a remake of everything else in the world, we can give Rad fans some red meat.
Right.
So that's kind of where my head's been at, and we're making massive progress, and I'm getting to talk to great fans like yourself all the time.
Absolutely. And I'm honored, personally, Bill. Who would have thought as a kid that I'd be talking to Bill Allen, Crew Jones later on? Like, I was like, I could barely sleep last night. Like, it was a surreal kind of like meta thing. I was just like, in my head, I was like, this is nuts. Like, I've watched this movie so many times. Like, I've studied your face. Not to be creepy, but like, I've studied your face. I've seen, everything about, like, I just know you, like, in that film. And it's just a bit surreal to finally just actually have words where we're exchanging as people. It's strange to me.
It's an honor for me. I was talking to Martin yesterday, and we were at an event, and I just said, at one point I found myself on stage with Martin Aparijo, Eddie Fiola, Hal Needham, and myself, and I'm like, how the hell did I get on this Mount Rushmore?
Right.
What did I do?
Right.
Because believe me, in my mind, my accomplishments pale in comparison to these guys. Eddie and Martin, that's who the movie was about, was these athletes.
Right.
I represented them in a fashion and was lucky enough to be the face guy. But, in my deepest thoughts, my feelings are, I'm not worthy.
Right.
So,
right.
thank you for the acknowledgement, but obviously I was just trying to portray these real life athletes and their heroics, and
right.
and it struck a chord. So I'm like, well, let's go back at this with even more fervor.
Right.
So I'm trying to get some street cred and some actual skills on a bike. I've got my own bike line out now. I meet fans on a daily basis. It's like I wrote the book for the fans. It's just like,
yeah,
I'm in it all. All the way.
What's the bike line? What's the bike line called? What's it called?
It's a Bill Allen signature bike. You can go to BillAllenBikes.com, and it's a tribute to the Mongoose. It's similar, but kind of an updated version, and it was designed by the great Martin Aparijo, who was the #1 freestyle guy for a decade or more, and designed and built at Gary Turner's shop.
Okay.
If you're familiar with GT, he's got his own bike line now, Gary Turner Bikes, and Craig, his son, actually does the welding on my bike.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
So really quality stuff, and it's just a part of the puzzle. We're putting the puzzle together, and I think fans kind of want something they can hang on to and sink their teeth into. So that's what we're trying to do.
Definitely. And where could people find you, like social media wise these days, if they wanted to?
Instagram, Bill Slim Allen. And I've got a fan page on Facebook. Okay.
Great. Okay, good. And I'm just going to ask you, just because I'm nerding out, is there any way you can say, God, I wouldn't give to go ass sliding with you right now? Could you just say that to me?
Dude. You have a girlfriend or something?
Hey, I've been married for 12 years happily, and she won't even say it to me. You don't want to say it to a guy. Okay, I get Neil's a little effeminate.
Let's get back to the Texas thing.
Yeah, you're like, let's get off the subject quick.
Yeah. How about this? I started out as 1 in 1,000. Now it's 1 in 20. I think to give that up would be very self-destructive, Nick.
What? That's crazy. I feel like Talia Shire all of a sudden. That's amazing.
Bill, so check this out. Look, I know you're saying that all these people, you've been blessed by all these people, but, we also thank you. They were also blessed by having the proper representation on the BMX world when Rad came out, by you being, lead actor and everybody else in it. The production obviously gave its respect to BMX. So I'm pretty sure that you've heard this from them and you hear it from us. We thank you for giving that proper representation with Rad.
Oh, man. That's deep. Thank you.
Yeah, and also, part of why we do this is because we love films. We love being involved in it. We love talking about it. We love everything about it. So is there anything that you want to say out there to people that are getting into the film industry to inspire them to? Because for me, like, I've heard from actors that been around in that what I call the 10-year loop, where it takes them 10 years to get noticed, but they work hard, they stick to it, and they fight, either just living in the street for whatever a year, or they do what they have to, and then they make it. It's hard. It's a lot more difficult than just seeing a a 2-hour film. So is there anything that you want to say to, these actors, producers, directors, editors to just say, stick with it?
Where I gain most of my inspiration is studying other people. Certainly Bruce Lee is at the top of the list. But you can take people like Dwayne Johnson, who I was goofing on earlier, or Kevin Hart, or certain personalities who set their life up in a way where failure is not an option, where they will do whatever it takes to get where they're going. So somebody asked Linda Ronstadt, a great singer from the 60s and 70s, "Oh, I'd do anything to sing like you." And she said, "Would you give 10 hours a day?"
Wow.
So the thing about success, particularly in show business, is there's no inevitability about it. There's no one person who has the answer, and it's a gamble. And the people who make it are the ones who have that vision. And Brandon taught me a lot about this, that thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. So you can build this city, this emerald city, and just walk towards it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What comes in front of you? Poppy fields, marshes, quicksand. You never stop. And that's what these personalities teach me, is that there was no way they weren't going to succeed, or they'd be dead. There's no other way around it. So that's often the kind of dedication it takes. Some people get off the bus here and get a series immediately and work the rest of their lives, and it's a cakewalk. That's not the path for most of us. And the great works of art that we hold up so high, again, in retrospect, they have an inevitability about it, but the struggle to get there, most people would just walk away from.
Yeah.
And there's what I was going to say is there's no guarantee, but even if you gave people, okay, if you give 10 hours of your life for the next 8 years, 10 hours a day for the next 8 years, you'll make it. Most people wouldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the people who will do it with no guarantee, well, now they got a shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's my advice.
Damn, Bill. Well, you're the truth, man. That's some deep stuff.
And just
that's what I've learned. These are the people who inspire me.
Right.
You know?
And just last thing, because I know you're a Texan, I just want to make sure that if you know of any organization that you want to tell our viewers about, that they can help anybody out there
Hurricane Harvey.
with the hurricane.
That's an easy one. I'm involved with kidsave.org, and it matches prospective foster kids with or foster kids with prospective parents.
Okay.
So it's a really great organization. There are 30,000 children in the LA foster care system. People don't know, how big of an issue it is. And so, I would love it if people would check out kidsave.org.
Kidsave.org. Okay.
Kidsave.org. Yeah. No,
Great.
we'll hit that out. All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all that you have done in the film industry that inspired us to,
and thank
do
you
what
for
we
Crew
do.
Jones,
And-
for me
Oh
personally.
man, it's been a pleasure, and call me anytime, dude. We can work on your obsession, Nick.
You'll get me through the therapy of it. I need it. Trust me. You have no idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's going to need a couple more security guards. There you go. That has been Bill Allen here at Get to the Podcast with the number 2. We want to thank him for coming in on our podcast, and I'm Tiago de Souza.
I'm Nick Campino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.